Okay, so I'm gonna be building an indoor like aquarium pond thing, and I've done lots of research, watched lots of YouTube videos by some people who do this for a living, and others who are like me and decided to DIY it, and what they learned from it, what worked best, what didn't. So I already have a 55-gallon aquarium, which I will show a little bit later, that I bought used for 40 bucks, not bad. Less than a dollar a gallon, you can't beat that. Plus it came with some old pumps and stuff that I was told still work. I haven't tested them out yet, but if they work, that will save me money later. Now, one thing I've learned in just from the permanent pond that I built out back is that it is really, really hard to keep an aquarium clean with just your traditional filters and pumps. So I'm going to build a sump tank, but the style and design that I liked most was the kind that sits above your tank or just behind it rather than underneath it. So I have this old piece of plywood because everything is going to be framed in with wood and stained to look rustic. So I figured this would be a really good piece. This was used by my husband, who's a diesel mechanic, and I don't know how long, but as you can see, it's pretty beat up. So it'll save me some of the time involved in beating it up, because that's part of distressing wood when you're going to stain it to look very country rustic. This piece is going to be for the sump. It's going to be for the exterior of it. Now for the interior, I decided to be a little classier. Most people, I mean, I've seen these made from just planter boxes. I've seen them made from other, like smaller, like 10-gallon aquariums. There's different styles. You want it to drip down through layers, and then once it gets to the bottom, it gets pumped back in, you know, but those sumps are generally below the tank. With this kind, the only thing that'll be in my aquarium pond will be the pump itself, because it'll have to push it up and into this, and then when it gets to the other end, it'll drain back down into the water. It'll create a current. But because I'm trying to do this as an indoor piece, yes, the planter boxes and stuff are pretty cheap to make on a strict budget, but I have these laying around. I have 4 of them, and they don't match anything in my house for any of my home projects and preparing my house to go on the market. So I'm going to line the inside, once I build my wood frame, with this. So it'll be a little bit more appealing, and then I'll still be able to kind of keep an eye on it as it filters through each stage. And so if like any of my filtration choices need to be cleaned, I can see that more readily. I've also seen people actually throw seeds in these and grow plants like sweet potatoes. So I might do that once I get to where I'm going. The whole point of this, why I'm building an indoor one, is because, as I said, we're going to be putting our house on the market. My husband's already taken on a job. I want something that I can take with me, but that will be easy to break down and take with me. So I hope you stick with us through the entire process of building this. It'll probably be over a couple of months before you finally see the finished product in the new home, but I think it'll be well worth it, and I hope maybe I help someone else in the long run, you know, with their ideas, maybe inspire them the way that some of the YouTubers I watched inspired me. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to sand this down because it is covered in grease. Well, first I'll cut it and then I'll sand it. That way I only need to worry about sanding the parts that I need, because I have only a little bit of sandpaper left, and it's Christmas Eve, so nothing is open until Thursday. So anyway, yes, this is how I'm spending my Christmas Eve, because it's fun to me. Anyway, so I'm going to cut these down. My aquarium is 48 inches long. This piece is about 40 inches square. So I'm going to go with, I think this will be perfect. It'll give me just enough room to put my different sections and partitions for the water to run through and things to filter through. So I'm going to start measuring and cutting this. Okay, so here's everything cut. Nothing's put together yet. I just have it sitting here so you can kind of see. These are the end caps, and they'll go like so on the ends. But you'll see later there's a secondary frame that'll go around this whole thing, kind of reverse. How the end caps are on the outside, well, on the exterior frame, to add support, it'll be the end caps on the inside of the long pieces there. It's kind of hard to explain, but you'll see when I get to that point. I'm not going to worry about sanding down the inside because none of that affects anything. You'll see, because once we put our, you see here, our tile down, it's gonna cover anything, you know, that could potentially harm the fish or anything, and it'll be silicone sealed, all of that. But I do want to sand down the outside and the edges, so I don't like hurt my hands and get slivers. We want it to have a polished look while still looking rustic. Plus I need to get some of the oils off, the grease and oil, so that when I stain it, some of it probably would help the look of the stain, and the whole aging process to make it look aged. But I'm also worried because oil might prevent the stain from curing or whatever. So I am going to sand it down, and we'll go from there. Once we're done with this part, then we'll build our exterior frame. When you put this together, you're going to want to use wood glue on top of your screws. I am going to drill starter holes for the screws, just because I don't want to split the wood. It is, I mean, you can already see, like, I'm gonna have to put wood glue in that and clamp it. I mean, this is kind of what I'm dealing with using a piece of wood that's kind of been beat to hell and back. But so I'm gonna start the sanding process, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we have all of our clamps in place, and I did end up finding on the bottom piece had a split as well. I had to glue. So, and I have it all dripping towards this side because this is going to end up having mortar on this side anyway. The glue says to wait 24 hours. So since we had to do this bottom piece as well, we're going to wait 24 hours, and Then we're gonna glue and nail it together. I've actually decided to go with Brad nails instead of screws, just because of how used this wood is, and the fact that it's already splitting. I don't want to make it worse. It is kind of, it will be kind of weak that way, but as I've said before, I will have another frame around that, which will give it the stability and strength. And it'll be made out of 2x4, and then the inside will have mortar in it, which will help bond it all together as well in the structure of it. Underneath the tile, obviously, no mortar or grout will be anywhere that it could affect the fish. So this is where we end here, and I'll come back in the morning and we'll start the next process of putting it all together. Okay, so I've got all my pieces cut now. I have my frame box for this to sit on for support. This piece will be in between those pieces, going down the middle for middle support, but it will not extend past the 40-inch sump pump box. Only the two end pieces will, for my little cabinet box. I also went ahead and cut out the frame for around the outside of the sump box. It came out to 44.5 inches long, because you have to take into account your sideboards once they get put on each side. But these end pieces will fit in between these two, the opposite of the box. So I'm going to go ahead and get this put together and show you what it looks like put together. Okay, so first part's built. It's a bit rough. I am not a master craftsman, but have faith in me. I mean, even like some of my measurements are off here, but have faith in me, because you're gonna love how this turns out in the end. Keep watching. So the next part is gonna be to put the frame around the box. I'm putting them in a little bit further because, I'll show you this, sunk it in, because I'm going to take wood filler and stick it in there, and then you won't even be able to see the screws. When you repurpose wood, if you have any holes, like I'm going to show you here, that you don't want seen, all you have to do, like I said, wood filler. If you don't want to spend the money on wood filler, all you have to do is take some wood glue and collect your shavings from when you were cutting wood, mix it together with the glue, and then you're gonna putty it into the holes, and then when it dries you'll sand it smooth, and boom, there you go. But so this is the box with the frame, and now we need to put our holes in to keep the frame where we want the frame, and screw our screws in. Let's try this. Oh, the moment of truth. Oh, look at that. Well, oh, I need to knock it over though. It fits snug though. I don't even know if I'm going to need to use mortar for the bottom. Just silicone around the edges. I mean, look how beautiful that's going to be. Look at that. Alright, so I need to knock that down, and then we'll measure our second piece. Make sure it'll probably need to be cut. The sides, yeah, I'll definitely have to use some adhesive or mortar, but all I'll have to do is go along with silicone. That you want to make sure you get the safe kind, the aquatic marine aquarium safe kind. But so that should give you an idea, and we'll put some like a nicer cap trim over the top of this when the time comes. I also need to trim this down some. This side looks pretty good, just a little sanding. But so that's where we're at. Doesn't look very attractive right now, but stick with me, stick with the video, and like, share, comment, any suggestions you have, I would appreciate. We're going to be doing this in steps. This is for the overhead sump pump, which one thing I forgot to mention, part of the reason I decided to go with the overhead was because I did not want to drill holes in my tank, which is pretty much required if you're going to do a below the tank sump, where it drips down below and everything. And or you end up having to use a whole lot more piping that looks ugly, which to me defeats the entire purpose of using a sump where you can hide your heater and all that in, which, you know, is just, well, that and they just filter way better. But anyway, so join us next time. We'll show you with the tile in place, and I hope you join us again.